hand over to my colleague, Hannah McCulloch, and she will get you started. And I also have to hand over the keyboard to her so she can actually do something here. Yes, Hannah?
Okay.
Yeah, just...
Sorry. Hi, sorry, my name is Hannah McCallister and I am National Coordinator for Local Child Poverty Action Reports with the Improvement Service. So welcome to what will hopefully be the first of a series of many good practice sharing webinars that are aimed primarily at those people who are leading on the development of local child poverty action reports. So everybody with an interest is very welcome. So I mentioned that the local child poverty action reports. I won't go into any detail on the nature of the duty to produce those reports at the moment. I will just say I'm happy to answer questions about that. Today's webinar is focusing on what local partners can do to maximise income through social security, and particularly what can be done at local level to ensure families are accessing all the devolved benefits they're entitled to, with particular focus on Best Start grants today. So today we have Alison Noble from the Scottish Government, we have Jacqueline Browne from Social Security Scotland, we have Kay McIntosh from South Lanarkshire Council, and Gena Howe from Glasgow City Council that are going to be sharing their thoughts and experiences on this. So first up is Alison, and she's going to be giving a bit of background to the rollout of Best Start grants in Scotland.
Good morning, everyone. As Hannah says, I'm Alison Noble and I work in the Scottish Government's Best Start Grant Policy team. Before we go on to talk about Best Start Grant, I just wanted to give a brief summary of some of the other benefits that are coming soon. So in the years since the Social Security Scotland Act passed, we've established the new agency and introduced 4 new benefits: Carers Allowance Supplement and the 3 elements of the Best Start Grant. The next one to be implemented is Best Start Foods, and that will open for applications on the 12th of August. People who are currently on Healthy Start vouchers will be invited to apply for the new scheme on a geographical rollout, and that should be complete by December this year. Later in the summer, we'll introduce the funeral support payment, and that provides eligible low-income families with a contribution towards the costs of a funeral. And by the autumn, the Young Carer Grant will be awarded to young carers aged 16 to 18 who do at least 16 hours of care in a week but don't qualify for a carer's allowance. As soon as possible, we'll also introduce the new job grant for young people aged 16 to 24 who've been out of paid employment for 6 months or more. Disability assistance for children and young people, which will replace Child DLA, will go live next summer. And we've also been working hard to progress our commitment to introduce a new income supplement for Scottish families. Aileen Campbell, the Cabinet Secretary for Communities and Local Government, will give an update to Parliament at the end of June on progress against tackling the Child Poverty Delivery Plan, and that update will include plans for the delivery of the income supplement. So I'm delighted to say that all 3 payments of the Best Start Grant are now open for applications. The pregnancy and baby payment launched on the 10th of December, and that will help with expenses in pregnancy or if having a new child, for example a pram or additional heating. It provides £600 for the first child and £300 for second and subsequent children. Families can apply between the 24th week of pregnancy and 6 months after birth. The early learning payment followed on 29th April, and that provides £250 per child to support child development, for example travel costs, trips out or toys for home learning. The long application window from 2 to 3.5 captures 2 most common ages for starting nursery, but there is no requirement to take up a place at nursery to qualify for a payment. The school age payment opened last Monday, and that provides £250 per child to help with the cost of preparing for school, maybe educational toys or after school activities. Claims should be made from June in the year that the child would normally start school until the last day in February of the following year. The window relates to the age of the child, and again there's no requirement to take up a place at school to qualify for it. Introducing the Best Start grant is one of the actions in the Scottish Government's Tackling Child Poverty Delivery Plan, and it replaces the Sure Start maternity grant in Scotland. By adding to the family budget at key transition points in the early years, we hope this will avoid the need for borrowing and reduce the financial pressure on the household, which can have such negative impacts on children's outcomes. The BSG criteria extended SSMG eligibility to anyone on tax credits or housing benefit, all under 18s and 18 or 19-year-old mothers who are still dependent on their own parents. We also took away the limit on the number of children who can qualify. Scottish Government analysis shows that under extended eligibility criteria, the BSG has the potential to reach a huge number of low-income families, as summarised on this slide. Although not a regular payment, it does affect household incomes directly and could result in a small improvement in poverty indicators. This may not necessarily be visible in the child poverty statistics, but could have an impact on material deprivation. High-level statistics giving details of the first 3 months of the pregnancy and baby applications were published in April. Over this period, there were 16,490 applications. Of these, 75% were for second and subsequent births, so that's families who wouldn't have got anything under the SSMG rules. We paid out £3.5 million in the first 3 months, and that's compared to £2 million of SSMG payments during the whole of 2017-18. Clients have a choice in how they apply for the BSG, online, by telephone or paper. And the stats show that around 89% of applications were made online, with around 90% of those online applications originating from Facebook, which just shows how powerful social media can be in getting the messages out. The statistics are published on the SG website and are broken down by local authority and health board, as well as age. So you can have a look at the number of applications and payments made in your area by following the link on the slide. A further publication covering applications to the end of May will be released in July, and that will give much more detailed analysis. Take up at all 3 payments to date has been really good, but we need to keep raising awareness so that families in your area can continue to benefit from the additional investment. The Scottish Fiscal Commission estimate that we'll make around 73,000 BSG payments this year at a cost of £21 million. So that's 19 million more than paid out under SSMG, so a significant investment to help those families who need it most. The Social Security Act places a duty on Scottish ministers to promote uptake of the benefits they administer, and they'll publish their first benefit take-up strategy by 22nd October this year. So we'll continue to work proactively to promote BSG through stakeholder engagement, digital, media and marketing campaigns, but we can't do this alone, and we really value your support in making sure that the people who may be eligible know that they may be entitled and are encouraged to claim. There's a range of resources available to help promote the new benefit, including leaflets, posters, model articles and social media content that can be copied or adapted for a range of circumstances. We've also developed with COSLA local authorities potential suggestions of how local government can support take-up of all 3 payments through existing services. And this stakeholder toolkit can be found on the Social Security website, again following the link on this slide. So I'll now pass you over to Jacqueline, who can tell you a bit about the support that the agency can provide.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alison, and my name is Jacqueline Browne. I'm actually a local delivery relationship lead working in Social Security Scotland, and there is only a couple of slides because really I'm hoping that the majority of you will have some sort of knowledge now that Social Security Scotland is up, live and running as an executive agency of Scottish Government. However, I realise that it is only the tip of the iceberg in getting our message out there, and so this opportunity today is actually to encourage future engagement, and we have got lots of presentations that we can come out and deliver to staff and teams and start to look at working in partnership together. So I'm just really, because today's focus is on Best Start Grant, I'm actually just going to quickly recover what the agency is actually about in delivering that. So as I said, we're an executive agency. We do now have a corporate plan
which has actually now been revised because it's been live now for a year. The charter was published in early February. All of these can be found on the Social Security Scotland website. When we're fully operational, we will employ approximately 1,900 people. These will be split across the 2 administration centres, our Dundee headquarters and our office in Glasgow. Both of these are interim locations that we are leasing and while we find permanent accommodation. The nationwide local presence that's been developed I'll cover a bit later on, and obviously we've got that free phone telephone number, so all of those applications who aren't doing it online or via Facebook and such like, we can actually get a free phone number to access, and our current opening hours are from 8 till 6 on a Monday to a Friday. Now, how people can actually reach us, which is important because what we have is a choice for people now, and that people can do it online, they can do it over the phone, and we would then subsequently help them do it online over the phone. There can be a paper form and the drop-in at local sites I'll touch on later. And they can also obviously go to people that they currently engage with to get that support as well. What is important to note here is that even things like the paper form application, when we were first going live with Best Start Grant, we actually involved what we call our Social Security programme and our service design teams, where we actually went out and we met with some groups of mums and some people who would be using the application forums and asked them what did they think of that first prototype of the claim form. Did it actually, was it understandable, was the layout, was the wording that we used, and what that shows is that we are designing this new system with people so that, the service is for people, and we want them to be able to influence how we actually deliver it to make sure that it works effectively. So I just thought it was important to note that. We can also talk about we have used, although we've got what we call those user research, we do have 2,500 volunteers that have helped inform a lot of our design, things like you're seeing on the slides today, our branding and such like, the name, the charter that I referred to, that has all been informed by our experienced panel members. So I said about what are we doing at a local level. So the local delivery side is where we want to deliver a face-to-face support for clients looking to access our services and that can't do it online, and they just maybe need a bit more support. We're not about to set up estates. We are looking to complement what is already out there. We're looking to, sort of make sure that people aren't entering into a service where they're pushed from one pillar to the next. And so we want to be in places that people already access. They already go to, whether it's a community centre or a health centre, but also we will offer things like home visits and if people's in hospitals and prisons, as it say there. So those types of services come about with that co-located approach. And at the moment, the local delivery relationship leads are busy engaging with partners at a local level, and they are looking at what services are in their area, because every area is different. So it will be tailored to those local areas. What won't be different is the services they in turn receive from the agency. We do have an overarching partnership agreement with COSLA that if we enter into a co-located site within a local authority area, that they help with the support of that. And that bit where we talk about looking at local advice agencies and services, that is where what we want to make sure is that we have a legal responsibility in the Social Security Scotland Act, that we will make sure people know what they're entitled to, and that we will make sure that they get access to other services such as independent advice and advocacy. And again, we can only do that by working in partnership at a local level and understanding what people actually need. So the timeline there, which Alison has also covered, but I just thought it was important as it's a useful slide for you to take a note of and have all the details there. But what I want to pick up on is, like, we have the Best Start Grant, and what we have been doing at a local level where I've mentioned about even from its inception of designing the forum, and now when we're out and engaging with local groups and with partner organisations and stakeholders looking at the local strategies to tackle child poverty. But again, in that timeline, we are also talking about the disability benefits for coming in next year, and that first one, which is the disability assistance for children for new claims. Again, that will help with the tackling poverty and child poverty reports, and the organisations that we need to engage with at a local level. Just now it's a limited staff that we have, and we're busy recruiting, and we thank people for the support that they've actually given us in promoting that recruitment. But the staff that we need in, we then want to work at a local level with organisations. So if there's a local group that maybe specifically have got a demographic of autism in the area, or other sort of child disabilities, we want to engage with them just now, not just wait until next year, because we need to start preparing the way and getting again that user input into helping design the service. So I just wanted to take again an opportunity today to say, it's not just about Best Start grant looking at tackling child poverty. It's actually all of the benefits that we're delivering in Social Security Scotland will help with that. And I think that's all I want to put on that one. Oh yes, and I'll go back. So now I'm going to hand over to Kay from South Lanarkshire.
Hi there. So thanks. Yeah, I'm Kay McIntosh, and I'm the Tackling Poverty lead in South Lanarkshire Council. And we've been doing some work since 2013 to embed financial wellbeing within the child health pathways in South Lanarkshire. I'm bringing together our Money Matters advice service and NHS Lanarkshire midwifery and health visiting staff. And I think the work that we've been doing is very much about supporting families, and particularly low-income families' financial wellbeing by making sure that we're doing everything we can to maximise families' access or uptake of benefits. So this work will, we hope, very much support the rollout of Best Start grant and the other devolved benefits. What we've been doing since 2013, starting with health visiting, well, starting with midwifery, should I say, and then moving into health visiting, is we've established a universal routine inquiry of money worries. And that means now that every midwife and every health visitor is raising the question around financial wellbeing with every parent. There already had been work in place around that before we started the improvement work, but I think what we had were instances where staff were judging whether or not they felt a family may or may not need that, whereas what we wanted was it to, for it to be routine. So we developed a child poverty information prompt. We did a lot of training with all health visiting and midwifery teams over the last, about 6 years now, and that work's very much paying off. Oh, sorry, wrong direction. In terms of ongoing improvement work, what we've been trying to do, because we want it to become the norm, we've been using the key information management systems in health to record and monitor adherence to the new pathway. Within midwifery, that's been using the Badgernet system, which I'm sure some of you will be familiar with. And what we've now managed to do is have a new field included in the Badgernet system that NHS Lanarkshire staff are using for them to record a referral to our telephone advice line. So having raised the question around financial wellbeing and, are folk confident that they're accessing all the benefits and money advice that they might need, if people feel that they would benefit from that, and we do try and encourage families to take up the offer, then we simply, our midwives will record that information within Badger, as I said, in a specific field in Badger, and that information is automatically sent to our Money Matters telephone advice line. I think that's important. Before that was the case, and we've been working with midwifery for a number of years now, we really relied on NHS admin staff to be able to pass those names and contact details over. And I think as soon as you're having to involve other people, it's not as efficient a system as it could be. So I think this development in Badgernet is key. And I'm sure there will be, obviously interest and scope to roll this out, beyond South Lanarkshire. The telephone advice line, I should say, it's a telephone advice line to start with. The first engagement is made through the advice line. Our Money Matters staff will contact the family and talk them through the service that they can offer. They use a kind of checklist of questions and issues. And from that, if it's felt that the family would like some face-to-face support or even a home visit, then that can happen as well. But for some people, the telephone advice line is appropriate. I think it's important to mention that the midwives will also be providing information about Best Start Grant. We've been making sure, working very, very closely with our social security links in the area, that all the information in Best Start Grant is getting passed to midwives and all frontline staff that can make a difference here. So not everybody that will be eligible for Best Start Grant will necessarily go forward to the telephone advice line. We just want to make sure that everybody at the very least is getting the information that they need. And I should say that, obviously Badgernet, as I said, is a midwifery system. In terms of health visiting, we have been looking at doing similar through the MyDis system. I'm not, in the NHS, and I'm not an expert on information management systems, but I know there's been a kind of couple of glitches there. We're actually now looking at moving to a system called Morse, I believe. But as I said, this idea of building fields into these key information management systems is really, really important. Finally, just in terms of the impact of the improvement activity over the years, and this doesn't go back to when we first started, but again, it can show you that over the last few years anyway, the numbers of referrals coming has very, very much increased. By 16 and 17, we were already, the work in midwifery was pretty strong, and really it's been about maintaining that, and as I said, Badgernet will help to do that for us. But you can see there the increases in terms of health visitor referrals from a very few 24 in 16-17 to our Money Matters service to 423 this year. And again for 19-20 you'll see our estimates. So, we would expect that over 1,000 families will being referred to the service. And our engagement levels are very high as well. We feel that 79% of those referred who that are engaging is pretty positive. But again, we'll not rest on our laurels there. We do continue to meet and discuss ongoing improvement activity. So that's me. And over to Gena.
Gena.
Thank you very much.
And we'll just get your screen up.
Just show my screen.
Yep.
No, that one. Okay, hello everybody. My name's Jenna Herring. I'm the lead for child poverty at Glasgow City Council. I'm just going to take 5 minutes this morning, just talking through our process and how we've linked Best Start Grant at Glasgow to try and maximise customers' opportunity to receive this money. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the baby payment. I realise there's quite a lot of words in this slide, so hopefully I wasn't really sure whether it was face-to-face this morning, so that's why there's so many words. But anyway, so the first thing that we did in Glasgow, we'd met with our local authority lead. There was a stakeholder sort of toolkit that provided lots of good information, lots of guidance, leaflets, access to website information. So that started a conversation in Glasgow between myself and one of my colleagues about how we could maximise the payment. Now you need to register a baby's birth within 21 days. And in Glasgow we have one main office that happens. So what we did is we went along, we met with colleagues and registrars. We asked them whether there was any opportunity to signpost to Best Start Grant for customers that call in. They were very receptive to doing more than that. That wasn't me. Sorry. We then had a conversation with our customer service agents at our registration office,
And during those conversations, we then agreed that we would put into place a process that would allow, when our customers come in to register the baby's birth, that they would also be taken through a Best Start grant application. And for anybody that uses the Qmatic system, I know lots of local authorities use Qmatic, it's a queue management system, it's fairly straightforward. In Glasgow, we only use appointments for birth registrations. All our face-to-face contact is through an appointment system. Appointments are normally made on the phone or they're made on the website. And it was a fairly straightforward piece of work to update the appointment system to add in a couple of questions. And those questions were, have you already applied for Best Start grant? If you say yes to that, then you go through the normal birth registration appointment. If you said no, you've not already applied, then the next question was, do you qualify for any one of these benefits? If you ticked yes to those, then you're then taken through the registration for a Best Start grant appointment. What our customer service agents then do, they make sure when the customer arrives in, they're aware that that is a Best Start grant appointment because it flags on our Qmatic system. Once the birth has been registered, they're then taken through the online application form and they're assisted with any digital support. We found we roughly register about 30-35 families a week through Best Start grant appointments. There's different levels of support. Some people need somebody to take them through the whole application. Other people are quite happy to take themselves through it. We've found that the application for Best Start grant is pretty straightforward, and once people are signed in, then they're taken through that. Also, what I should have added, I forgot, we updated the appointment letter so that if you choose your appointment, your notification to come through text or by letter, then the letter and the text will tell you that what you need to bring in. So if it's a Best Start grant appointment, you need to bring in your bank account details and things like that, so that the application can be completed whilst you're there. It's working really well. We've had no issues. Any issues that we've raised way back at the beginning, we've sort of managed to resolve with the local lead. The process itself, I said, is very quick. It's only maybe 15 minutes on top of the first appointment. And we've been able to manage that because they're booked in advance. We know how long it takes, so we're able to manage our resource run about that. And we're quite pleased that we can support families to help them make this application. We've also got the link to Best Start grant on our self-help desks. So it's already there, so it's one click and it takes you into the application. And that's also, if people just happen to wander in and they're up at the self-help desk, there's lots of information in that. And we used all our social media platforms to advertise this. So whether that's Twitter, Facebook, and the council's website as well. I've already said, the other thing actually I should have spoke about is all parents are given a birth registration card. Again, I didn't know this. When you're at the hospital and you bring that card along with you to register your baby. And our registrar at Glasgow, our timing was good. The cards were due to be reprinted. And they updated all of these cards with information about Best Start grant and how to apply. So again, as soon as a new parent is given this card, then that information is on that already. And I know through my colleagues in health that the midwives as well are very good at promoting this, and they're really pushing this as well. Okay, early years, obviously we've just gone live in April, I think it was, in early years. So myself and my colleague again, we delivered awareness sessions to all our early years clerical team staff that were newly recruited. And this is our team that process the nursery applications and the admin and provide general admin support to council nurseries. We also got agreement from our colleagues in education to include the Best Start grant material within the new parent pack. So there's leaflets and information in there also. We have a distribution list for all our nurseries, so we've gone out with those stakeholder toolkits and shared that with them as well. We've updated our website again for parents and carers so that we're constantly promoting this. And with the early years, the additional 900 hours, There's also a link when you go in there to access that you can make an application to Best Start Grant. So try and, where possible, maximise all opportunities for customers to sort of know about this payment. And then the school age payment. So obviously that went live last Monday, 3rd of June. In Glasgow, we again secured agreement from colleagues in education to add the Best Start Grant information to the online Primary 1 enrolment process. The customer then receives an automatic email and their placement letter, confirmation letter, and there's information and links on that and how you can access and apply for Best Start Grant. We are also looking at how we can even make this easier for customers, so that in the enrolment for 2020, because we know the enrolment is done in January, so there'll be people that have been missed. But again, it's in the new pack. It's in the pack that parents are given. Their sort of starter pack that tells them about school clothing grant, free school meals, and providing that sort of opportunity for them to apply online. Over and above that, we've started working with our colleagues in libraries so that we can get the Best Start Grant phone number on the self-help desk, and that it's also to get that on the PCs that make it when customers come in, so that, again, there's an easy link. And we're promoting it again through the library membership, because all children in Glasgow, part of the registration, birth registration, they're also registered for a library card. And then finally, in terms of bereavement, again, you know, we've met with over 35 funeral directors in Glasgow just to raise awareness that this payment is still available to parents, unfortunately, if they suffer a bereavement during pregnancy. So they were very positive in supporting the promotion of this. And again, we're just working with colleagues in social security, just waiting on some appropriate material that we could share, because the sort of naturally, the leaflets and things have got happy babies and things as you would expect. So what we've sort of asked if we can get something, just a wee sort of leaflet, and we would share that. So I've sort of focused on the process today, just to sort of the detail a wee bit about how we sort of linked it. And we'd be really interested to hear, again, if anybody else is doing work that they're doing, particularly around about the early years, because it's tricky trying to capture everybody, I think, at that point. So that's me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to use your nice picture of Glasgow for a question session here. We also have Hannah's contact details that are coming up in a moment. If you have any further questions after the webinar, we have had a couple of questions coming in during the webinar, but to all of you, if you have any questions for our panel or for Hannah, please type them in and I'll pass them on in pretty much in the order we get them in. But Hannah, do you have any comments or any questions that you want to start off with here?
I do have a lot of questions, but I'll try and use them sparingly. I suppose coming at this from a child poverty perspective, Jacqueline, you were talking about how the Social Security Agency will be engaging locally and seeking to make sure that it's accessing the communities that need these benefits. And you might be aware that within the child poverty guidance for local authorities and health boards, there are 6 priority groups that are identified, so some of which are lone parents, large families, those with a baby, those in which someone's disabled, ethnic minority families, etc. Have you been actively thinking about that in terms of how you're planning, or is that something you will be taking into?
So that is something that some of us have had some discussions about. As I say, every local authority area that we engage with will have a different type of engagement, and that's where that plea is about us trying to identify them, because just now we're going out to look and make the engagements. And so if people, you know, hopefully as the word spreads, they will be able to think, actually, we should have them at the table, because it is happening in a lot of areas, but not all of the areas yet, and maybe just not at certain levels. So you are right in saying that, yes, okay, we are aware of like the strategies in the sense of like what priority groups, but some of that is maybe just getting done at a local sort of operational level just now, and we need to marry the two up. We need to marry who is responsible for coordinating the tackling the local child poverty reports and who is feeding into that to make sure that it's actually being delivered, and then where we come in and sit at the table. So it's a bit of a grey answer at the moment, but it's because we are just at the beginning of that journey, and really we're hoping today that'll be where we start to push forward now.
Okay, thanks. And Hannah, from a policy side, now that the benefits have been delivered, a real focus for us going forward will be stakeholder engagement. So linking in with the policy teams within government and agency colleagues to make sure that we're reaching the people we want the benefit, the VSG to benefit.
Can I ask you all, by the way, to maybe say your name, because there's 5 of you here, and so that might be a bit confusing at the end, at the other end who's talking. There's a question here: is there anything that Scottish Government and Social Security Scotland can do to make local efforts easier? I.e., are there any unnecessary blockages that you have come across that Scottish Government or Social Security Scotland could help with?
What do you mean by that? Sorry,
yeah, I only have that question.
Right,
so
the blockages that we encounter, or the blockages that they encounter?
I think it's that local government, or that they experience locally, that you might know about and that you might be able to help with.
We'd be really interested in hearing any of that sort of feedback, because we're hearing that the benefits landed quite well, applications quite an easy process. So any feedback on that sort of thing, it'd be good to hear it.
Yeah. And it's Jacqueline here, so I'm thinking from what they're saying there, as Alison had said, early feedback is that it's landing well because of the applications that we're getting through. But if people are saying to local organisations, I didn't know about that, we wouldn't know that until somebody comes and tells us. But also that is why I mentioned earlier about looking to the future and building on the next stages of the Social Security Scotland, because Best Start Grant are sort of one-off payments, and so we can get messages out there quite quickly through the different social media channels and all the local work that we're doing just now. But as we go into those bigger benefits, it will be crucial to understand where blockages might occur. But again, we need to know where people think we should be targeting our resources and our engagement. So if people have got any wonderful suggestions, that'd be fantastic.
Thank you very much. There's also a question specifically for Kay, and it says brilliant stuff first, so that's important to bring in there. Are the changes you have made to Badgernet now robust enough to be shared with and recommended to the national Badgernet user group so that other NHS boards can switch this function on?
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, I should say that ideally we had hoped that one of our NHS Lanarkshire staff involved in this work and would have been able to be here today, but for a number of reasons they really tried, they couldn't, and I'm here trying to cover it. So I'm probably not the best person to answer that question. What I am quite sure about, though, is that the change to Badgernet was tested at a locality level. So one of our teams tested its use to make sure that it was working efficiently, and it's been rolled out across all of our South Lanarkshire teams now. So that would suggest to me that it's then we can scale it up nationwide. Again, I don't know enough about Badgernet, and are they all locally? Is it a national system that's then locally designed? I really don't know, but it would certainly seem a very obvious question for national NHS folk to pick up on.
Okay, we have space for more questions, so please feel free to write them. Hannah?
Okay, sorry, I thought
you have your long list. So
can I just quickly add to the Badgernet? It's Jacqueline here, that we will take that away then as an action, because we are sitting, at a strategic level and with stakeholders at NHS Health Scotland and such like, and they obviously in the Badgernet forum. So take the question away and see if we can get that profile raised and see if they can get a message out and a decision made. We'll take that as an action today. If that's
certainly,
okay.
We've had folk nationally coming and talking to us about the work, and they've been very interested.
Yeah.
So I think now that there's some evidence of it being sort of effective locally.
I've got a question that's for both Kay and Gena. Really, both of the things that you've done that have obviously look as if they're going to be great and really effective have involved needing buy-in from other disciplines, whether that's from midwives or registrars, and probably at senior management level and that kind of thing. I just wonder, firstly, has that been difficult to achieve? And do you have any tips, I suppose, for other people leading on child poverty that are trying to get engagement across different disciplines?
Will I go first? I mean, as I said, the improvement work that we've been doing with NHS started back in 2013, and we were aware at that point, it was actually during the early years collaborative kind of early days, that financial wellbeing wasn't necessarily something that we were raising with all parents. And it took a while to embed the work, it really, really did. And I think why we were very keen to use systems like Badgernet was so that it became the norm. Because up until that point, we needed, we did kind of recruit key folk. We started with one midwife who had a real passion for the work to lead it and test it. And by identifying these kind of champions, I suppose it helped. But that in itself is not a kind of solid enough system. And what we wanted was, regardless of, midwives and health sisters have a whole range of things that have to be covered. And I think, when it's in the system, it's a field that has to be covered, then you then have some confidence that it's there and it will be used on an ongoing basis. So we've had a great relationship with NHS Lanarkshire, throughout the process. They've been very, very helpful from a strategic level and at an operational level. But as I said, I think it still needed that system to make sure it's embedded. And the other thing that we did talk about from the very early days was, we need to make sure that this is in the training of midwives and health visitors, which is obviously not dealt with at a local, well, it can be dealt with locally, but if it's based within the education packages, all the better still. So the more national the approach, the more embedded it is, then the better.
Thank you. Hi, it's Gena. To be honest, it was a real open door. Our colleagues and registrars and the service desk manager, I know them quite well. I don't know, actually it probably did have something to do with how it was easier because I'd worked with both of them and moving into that location that they were based in, because that was a different project I'd worked on. So I had a really good relationship with them. But I think also I understood the complexity involved in birth registration, and I knew that it's devolved on behalf of registrars general to local authorities. So I was already aware of that. So my expectation wasn't that the registrars themselves would be able to do that, because I knew that there was quite a tight timeline for them. So I think just having a wee bit of background about knowing at that service what they could offer. But I think because they were so open to involving the other customer service advisors and trying to make it as easy as possible, and probably because they're dealing with customers every day registering a birth, babies, that they're aware just how difficult that time is and how expensive it is for families and how much you struggle. So they were really on board to try and make it as easy as possible. And as soon as we had the schematic system, and that was in-house, somebody could update that. We didn't even need to go to the supplier. It was a couple of changes. As soon as we had that sorted, registrars and our customer service agents, the other thing that we did, we met with the customer service agents themselves. So it was a team of about 20. We spoke to them about what would work for them, because there's floor walkers and things like that in there, what would be the best approach. And then the customer service agents themselves came up with a process, and then they delivered that back to the team. So in terms of myself and my colleagues that were involved, we were only really involved with a couple of main contacts, and then the teams themselves decided how it would best work, and then they rolled it out. We had a couple of phone calls when they went live, just with different things, but it was fine. After about 2 days, it was sorted, and we're really happy with it. And actually, the staff in the service desk, it's our customer service desk, they were saying normally they're dealing with fines, and collection, and so they were like, it's actually quite nice to help people with something that's a payment that they get, rather than try to get money from people. So there was a buy-in, I think, for that side as well.
So now we have questions coming in again. The question that I always forget to address and that is always asked here is, will the slides be shared? Are you all okay with the slides being shared?
Of course, yeah.
We are going to share the slides in the local Child Poverty Action Reports K-Hub group. That if you're not signed up, you can find it on the K-Hub, or Hannah can help you with finding it. You can get Hannah's contact details here. But so yes, we are going to share. There's also the recording of the webinar that we are going to share. Now I have a couple of questions here. Sorry, they came in. There are great examples of targeting services to parents which tackle two of the three drivers of poverty noted in the child poverty guidance. That's cost of living and income from Social Security. Are there any examples of tackling the third driver by promoting employability services to parents? And I don't know who that's for, but it's for all of you, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, Gena, yes, we do promote employability services through a wide range of services in our libraries. We've got universal credit support. There's obviously Jobs and Business Glasgow, which is a service within Glasgow that supports working mothers, and not just working mothers, but obviously we're talking about Best Start grant. We're also involved with One Parent Family Scotland in Glasgow in a joint initiative to look at employability, training for employability and sort of skills, and linking that with childcare and obviously transport. Not directly for Best Start grant. Each of the employability programmes, sit separate, so they're not sort of linked directly to maximising Best Start grant. I hope that.
Yeah, and I think in South Lanarkshire, certainly the checklist that our telephone advice line staff will use will have employment there as a topic to raise to see if people need some help. And I think at the same point there's probably work we could do to build on that as well, particularly as the kind of pathways for parents seeking help to get into or progress within work should be actually improving over the next year or so, as some of the money in the local delivery or in the Scottish Government Child Poverty Delivery Plan is going to be targeting employability and low-income parents. So I think it's just about connecting all the different services and all frontline staff taking a kind of triage type approach, so that it might be money matters as their bag, but they're in a good position to raise employability and other issues as well.
Can I just, there's an additional similar question around great examples of promoting Best Start grant through different channels, any success at preschool, local authority nurseries, private nurseries for the new payment launched in June, or is anything planned potentially? So I guess that's related in the same way. Which channels are you using? Jacqueline?
At a local level, again, all of our local delivery relationship leads have been out and speaking to organisations. So there are, like in some areas where they have been able to actually visit, like sort of private nurseries, as you say, get out there. That won't happen in all areas because of the geographical size and our resources at the moment. So we then have to look at different channels, and that's maybe through head of services and asking them to cascade messages down through their local routes. Also looking at events and organisations that can display posters. So there's a range of activity. Going back and picking back up on employability, obviously Social Security Scotland, we do not have the devolved benefits for employability, but we do work with our Scottish Government counterparts with regards to the targeted employability programmes, such as that's been brought in through Fair Start Scotland, and our staff at a local level are aware of who the providers are for those programmes, and as such actually they'll sit at tables where it's a mix of organisations, as Kay was saying, when you're looking at the whole holistic approach, and they're getting the same messages as everybody else is getting those messages, so hopefully that knits some of that together as well.
And also there was a local media and radio campaign run earlier in the year, and there is a further campaign planned for later this year.
There's also a question on what role does the third sector play in this work, locally and nationally?
A huge role. So local authorities and health boards do have a key role to get word out about this benefit through the services that they deliver. But there's, I think you both say you couldn't do your work without the involvement of the third sector partners.
No, certainly in developing our local child poverty action report, and I know Gena will be the same. There's been a lot of engagement with the third sector, because we are not just producing a report that's the council's report or NHS Lanarkshire's report. It's very much a community planning partnership effort, much that some of the big kind of changes probably do sit with local authorities and NHS boards, but the voluntary sector can contribute significantly. We have a financial inclusion network in South Lanarkshire where we invite folk from the third sector and a whole range, the public sector as well, to get updates and things like the Best Start grant. Fiona, our local kind of link from Social Security, comes along to that group. So I think it's for all of us, regardless of the sector, to play a part in this agenda, but we certainly value the contribution of the voluntary sector.
Yeah, and so certainly from an agency point of view, it's Jacqueline here, with regards to the third sector. In actual fact, the third sector are often the ones who we can get access to more easily, because they're smaller groups as opposed to health and local authorities being such wide groups. With the number of staff that you have to identify. Subsector, all the local areas have certainly welcomed the Social Security Scotland, and we've delivered many sessions throughout Scotland, whether it's been at local events or going along to their team meetings, and the list is endless on certainly our third sector engagement.
Hi, it's Gena. I was going to say that our Glasgow's volunteer in the voluntary sector, we held an event on the 20th of February. So we went out with a mass invitation to all the groups that were involved in activities related to reducing child poverty. And we held an event where we shared with them the information that we had, and also we had table discussions where we were capturing where do we think the gaps are and how do we be better at working together with the third sector. So that it was a good event, and it was a fairly robust discussion. There was lots of discussions about funding as well, and we were able to sort of have that discussion though. And we're going to have a similar event with the Qualities Forum as well, where we've just gone out and sort of tried to get dates in the diary so we can sort of start to share again and look at best practice.
I suppose it's worth mentioning as well, if we're talking about the voluntary sector, the CABs are playing a key role here, because obviously they're funded to deliver financial health checks to families. And that'll be a very similar process, I would imagine, to our telephone advice line, where you work through a checklist of topics that may or may not be relevant to a family. That will include, I'm absolutely sure, Best Start grant and all the devolved grants, because it's partly about welfare benefits maximisation. So when we're talking about our advice services, it's very much the councils and CABs being the kind of key players in terms of benefits maximisation. But obviously there's lots of other contributions from organisations on top of that.
Thanks. Now you all got to say something, and there's one last question because we're coming up on the hour. So I'll take the last question for Hannah. Yes, it says for Hannah. What will happen with the local child poverty action reports once they are submitted? Will they be reviewed by the Scottish Government? Will there be follow-ups on reports? So I think that's a good question to finish with.
Okay. So I'll be sending out an update today. But basically, so the reports are to be submitted by the end of June, and basically that means that they should be made publicly available by the end of June. The arrangements for scrutiny haven't yet been finalised. I think it looks likely that the Poverty and Inequality Commission will have some role in providing feedback on the report, so I don't think that's been finalised. So in terms of scrutiny, that process will be going on. At the same time, so there's a group of national partners that includes the Improvement Service, Scottish Government, NHS Health Scotland, Spyro at Caledonian University and other organisations that will be going through all the reports and seeking to do whatever we can to draw out good practice and to share that as widely as possible, and to inform hopefully a process of continuous improvement and learning, because we've got another 11 of these reports to do before 2030. So we'll be seeking to draw out learning and make sure that we're all moving forward together. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. So if you have any further questions, I suggest that you join the knowledge hub group. We will send out information, we will send out links to where the presentations and the video is in the knowledge hub group to the people who attended today, and you're welcome to share that with colleagues who might not have been able to attend today. That's pretty much exactly on time. So I'm just going to ask, any final comments, anyone? Hannah?
I would just like to say, as I said, this is the first of these webinars that we've run, but I'm keen to do more, potentially focusing on income from employment, employability, whatever you think would be useful. So don't hesitate to let me know if there's something you want to know more about, or you have an example of good practice that you want to share via webinar.
And there are comments coming in saying thank you for your time. I found it very useful, and there's a couple of comments like that. I'll pass them on to our panelists afterwards. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.
And I'm going to end the webinar for everyone now, so I hope you have a great day, and thank you for attending.